Hey everyone, this is me. My name's ZU and I'm a third year college student at The Ohio State University. I'm 6'1", 220-ish pounds on any given day, and I want to become a doctor someday. That's my dream job. Not in classes, I work as a medical assistant at a urology clinic, which is a whole bunch of fun, and I also do some lab research, but that's all just work stuff. I was a pretty cute baby if I don't say so myself. This is me back in China. I was really happy and I loved everybody there. China was actually, believe it or not, for me, not a bad childhood, despite all the stories and bad press it gets. My dad was a farmer's boy and he grew up in the countryside. My mom, on the other hand, was actually a city girl and she was a big model for the military at the time. So it was an unlikely duo, but they met in college and my dad eventually won my mom over. Together, they made the fat baby that was me. But as nice as China was, it couldn't compare to the opportunities my dad saw in America. So we all got on a red plane and came to the States. And throughout my childhood, my parents say I would often look for a red plane to bring me back to China. We landed on the East Coast after my first flight as a baby, and I was not happy with our situation. I'd had to miss all my friends, and my parents had to take rudimentary lab jobs just to get, an income going. Back in China, we'd been hotshots, and here, we were immigrants without friends and without connections. My parents sacrificed a lot, and they wanted me to have a good life, so my dad signed me up for Boy Scouts, and I'm thankful. Years later, I would become an Eagle Scout, and it remains one of the proudest things I've ever done. After a few months, my parents moved us all into Columbus, Ohio, and we got a really nice house in a really cute suburb. I remember I loved my house because it was so big and there were so many things we could do. We had a huge backyard, and we actually lived on the edge of the suburbs, so there were always construction crews nearby that were building the houses to expand the suburb. I had a friend named Eric who was my childhood buddy, and we always played together, either catching bugs or going into the construction lots to mess around. I remember one time we actually decided to go play in a unfinished basement, and we ended up getting trapped down there. So that wasn't the smartest moment. But as the suburb that we moved into grew, it got less and less safe. We had a lot of shady characters move in, and my parents remember one night our neighbors woke up and saw a silhouette standing outside their window. At this time I was already 7 years old, and my parents had my baby sister. Me and my sister were instantly close, and I loved her so much. We'd always play together, and we were fast friends. But having a new baby made my parents really think, and we all decided it was time to find a safer neighborhood. Back in Pickerington, we'd had that huge, beautiful house, and I'd loved it so much, and I was happy. But in Upper Arlington, we had to settle for this little condominium that we had to split with another family, and I was pretty bummed out, to be honest. About this same time, my parents started going to this church called 4C, which was a church that was very culturally centered towards other Chinese Americans. And they came to Christ, and for me, this was something that was really hard to swallow because my parents had always been scientifically minded and taught me about the scientific process, so it felt like a betrayal of our values. So for about a year, I made it known that I was not happy in church. I called everybody out on their silly faith and for being sheeple, and I didn't make many friends. But there was one guy, his name was Josh, and he was the popular kid in the youth group. He was the worship leader, he played guitar, and everybody liked him. And for reasons still unbeknownst to me, he decided to take me under his wing, so to speak, and make me one of his good friends. We ended up going whitewater rafting together over the subsequent years, and our families got really close. Even today, we're still very tight friends, and we're actually living together as roommates right now. This is us in college. Partially because of my parents and largely in part because of Josh, I'm happy to say that I was eventually able to come to Christ. I met a lot of really impressive people who clearly didn't fit the stereotype of what I'd imagined Christian life being, and I decided I wanted to be part of this happy life. I made a ton of friends over the years, and a lot of them have stuck with me, and we still continue to support each other even though we've gone our separate ways. High school for me was a blur. I just remember getting really tall all of a sudden and suddenly getting the attraction of girls. And then I had my first girlfriend and my first heartbreak. And then because of that, I decided to get into the whole gym life, and I got really big. My dad had been working at OSU for years, and I'd grown up around it, so OSU was easily my first choice for college, and I'm happy to say that I was able to get in, and today I remain a very proud Buckeye. It took me a few years to still decide to commit to going into pre-med though, just because science was kind of hard for me. But eventually I realized that helping people is what I want to do. During my first few years of college, I found out about a guy called Casey Neistat, and he really inspired me to do what I've always wanted to do, which was to capture life and to make videos and to share my memories with everybody around me. For me, it's never really been about subscriber count or if I can make money off of YouTube, but I just love video editing, and it's always been about recording those memories to share with everybody I love. And then about 2 years ago, Josh convinced me to try this dance class, and while I was at the dance class, I met this gorgeous girl called Christina. She was my age, and she was actually the dance instructor, and she was amazing at what she did, and we hit it off really well. She was ambitious, talented, and really hardworking. And after a few months, I decided to ask her out. And this drawing really doesn't do her justice, so I guess I'll show you a picture instead. That's her on the right. But yeah, that's me, and that's my life, and I'm super excited to see what God does with it in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.